So welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kate Mueller. I am the Chief Product Owl and Resident Cheesemonger here at KnowledgeOwl. And in practice, that means I do all kinds of things. I do a lot of our manual QA testing. I write a lot of our documentation. I am the person who says no to requests that you have, so you can blame me if we haven't built something that you really want. And I write blog posts. I occasionally do our social media accounts. I also use KnowledgeOwl a whole lot since I write a lot of our documentation. So I'm serious power user over here. And today I'm excited to talk about a corner of the app that I don't think gets as much love and attention as it possibly should, which is Snippets. So let me share my other screen here. And to talk through Snippets, I thought it would be easier if we looked at sort of a broad overview of what makes Snippets a good thing, maybe not a good thing for something you're trying to do, and to look at three very specific use cases. These are fairly simple use cases. Snippets are a lot more powerful than this, but I was trying to pick use cases that I felt people could walk away and use almost immediately in their documentation. So if you're not familiar with Snippets, they basically allow you to create a chunk of code or a chunk of content and then embed that snippet across your knowledge base wherever you might need that code or that content to exist. All of them are stored within the snippets library, and you embed a snippet by adding the merge code that gets created for it wherever you want to use it. So the article editor actually has an insert snippet tool in it, so you can look it up. If you wanted to add snippets into your style settings or a category description, you would copy the merge code and paste it into one of those places. They're very extensible. You can use them pretty much anywhere that you can paste text of any kind in within KnowledgeOwl. And because of that, a lot of the advantages that they have are that you can use them pretty much anywhere. They can contain really complicated code, customizations that you only want to apply in some places. You can also restrict them to reader groups. So if there's like a chunk of content you only want your support people to be able to see and your normal, customers or end users to not see, you could put it in a snippet and reader group restrict it. Snippets are also the very first place we ever had reference tracking, long before files got it. So they will track all of the places that you use them as well, which can make it easier to audit where you're reusing some of that content. And we don't in any way limit or restrict like how often you can use them, for example. The big cons, as far as I see them, being a content creator myself, are that content that is within Snippets is not indexed for search. So if I've got text in a snippet and somebody searches for that text, they're not actually going to turn it up. They'll only turn up text that's actually entered within an article. And they're one of the few objects within KnowledgeOwl that doesn't have any kind of version control or revision history yet. And so if you're going for something that has better version control, topic articles might be a better fit here rather than snippets. But so to talk through this a little bit, there are a few different simple use cases I wanted to look at. One of these is just using them as sort of a simple text variable. So this can be for things like product names, text strings you use a lot that you don't want to have to remember. Part of the extensibility here that makes it so useful is that since it's in a single snippet and then that snippet gets referenced a bunch of places, if you want to update the text, you only have to update the snippet once and it will automatically update all of the places that that snippet lives. So it can make for very fast updates to that kind of information. And because of that, since you're just reusing the same thing over and over, it yields a whole bunch more consistency to certain things across your documentation. And since you have the reference tracking, it can make it easier to track down all of the content that might be impacted by a given change for this. So we use this in our support knowledge base. One simple way we do this, so within KnowledgeOwl, we don't let you upload files that are larger than 200 megabytes. And I don't like remembering numbers. I'm a words person. And so I have this as a snippet so that I can put it into any of our documentation that references that file size limit. In this case, I've dumped it into the code editor which means that the WYSIWYG won't try to format it so it doesn't get any kind of paragraph tags around it. So you can truly use it as an inline variable. And here is a place where I have used that. You'll see I've got my little call out warning here, and then I just have the snippet merge code embedded directly there. And what that presents to you as an end user out here is as if I have just written that text straight out as it is. Now, the disadvantage here is that if I then search for this text, you will see I do not get any of the places that it exists. So that is the one big con here. You have to be kind of smart in how you're using snippets in this particular way. For that, as an example, let's hop out here. I'm going to create a snippet for this really fast. And in this case, instead of using something like our export or our file import limitations, let's say you have a particular tool or a feature that gets renamed a whole bunch, because naming is hard. And maybe you've been bought a few times and people are disagreeing over what a thing is called. So in this case, I'll do something like, here's a random name of a tool. For text variables, what I recommend doing is switching to this code editor. And this only really matters if you want to use that text as inline text. So in my example out here, when it shows up directly inline, if you wanted to appear within a sentence, normally, just to kind of swap that text out, you will want to use code editor here. And I will show you why. If I do this in WYSIWYG, so let's say I just say export conversion tool. If I look at what's happening in the code here, you'll see it's put these paragraph tags around this. So if I embed this, it's going to do a paragraph break, and my text is going to appear in a separate paragraph, which is not really the use case that I want here. If I switch to code editor, that kind of bypasses all of the WYSIWYG's fun little formatting and cleaning tools, and I can put straight inline text in here. I can create this snippet. I'm going to hop out to my articles. And I'm going to use the insert snippet tool here in the editor and just say, all right, where's my snippet? Here it is. In the editor, what we will see is that merge code. And if I view that article in real time, in real life, since I've done that inline text by using the code editor, it gives me that text directly inline. Pretty simple use case. As long as it's not a big deal breaker for you that it isn't indexed for search, it can be a really great way to help standardize wording, even things like casing on these text variables. And the second use case that I want to talk through today is somewhat similar, except we're not going to focus on inline text so much as, let's say that there's a message that we use across our knowledge base. It's something that happens fairly frequently. And it's easier for us to have that consistently formatted. So this might be something where you're setting up a hyperlink to contact your support team, or an alert that this feature only applies to people at a particular plan level, or with a particular feature set, or with a particular set of permissions. These are really great use cases for this particular example. Again, this is a place that using a snippet helps you update the text that gets used everywhere really quickly. It helps enforce consistency so that that message and the behavior is always identical every place you use it. And it can help you if you've done like a little bit of custom styling for a particular message or link or something. It means that you're consistently applying that formatting everywhere without having to find an old example, copy exactly what you did, and paste it forward. This is, not surprisingly, also a thing that I use a whole lot in our support knowledge base. So here is a fairly common use case for us, which is that we're generating a link to contact us. And in our case, this is designed to open our contextual help widget. So that's what these KO19 things are doing. Underscore KO19 is how we call functions for the widget itself. Load contact means that we're going to open the contact form, and then the open means that we're actually opening the contact form. And what this means in practice is that anytime I'm writing a piece of support content where I want to have a link to contact us, whether that's a release note about a new feature and we want people to let us know if they have feedback, or if there's something that we need to perform a task for them, like run a reindex, recover something that you can't recover in the UI, then we would embed this snippet. So here's a place that I've got it embedded. This is within a release note talking about changes to our API endpoints. And here is my snippet in context. So it's just saying, contact us if you need help with this. We actually use separate snippets for lowercase contact us and capitalized contact us because I'm that picky and I hate going to find how I formatted things before. And what this looks like in real life is it generates the contact us link, which is what I've set up in that snippet, and it will automatically open the widget for us because that's what I've told it to do. I love this particular use case for snippets because it guarantees that you're formatting something like this link the same way every single time. This is not generally like, we probably use this in hundreds of articles. They're not things I would want to show up in search when somebody searches contact us. Contact us should go to a general page about like how to get support. So not having the search indexing is not a big deal for me in this scenario. That's one great use case for it. Another would be something like maybe there is a call out or a message that we want to see repeatedly throughout the knowledge base. I use this for a few of our release note formats. In this case, I'm going to take that same file limit, but I'm going to turn it into a whole block of text. So instead of doing code editor here to do inline text, I don't need it to be inline text. In fact, what I want to do is let's put it in a call out div. And I've already got some text here that I will dump in. So this is a more verbose version of that message. It's going to allow me to say that we're going to have the same call out everywhere across the knowledge base. You have a little bit of control about visibility. So you can say this is a snippet that I don't want PDFs to see. By default, PDFs will display this text. You can also control whether that snippet is something that appears within article blurbs, so in search results or things like that. Meta descriptions. In this case, this does feel like meaningful content, so I'm going to do that. This gives me my snippet. I can hop over to a different article. And here is a place where I actually had this text hard-coded previously. I'm going to back that out. And I will insert the snippet here instead. And I'll get the entire message as it's formatted. And if we were to increase this limit at some point, I could come in, edit the snippet to adjust the number that's displayed here, and it will automatically adjust all of the places that that snippet is used. So the advantages are pretty consistent with any type of content reuse, frankly. And then third and final use case for the day would be embedding scripts or code. So if any of you have tried to embed scripts and code directly within an article, you may have run into the fact that the article editor can be a little overly enthusiastic in scrubbing code. It tries to make sure that you are generating valid HTML so that you don't end up with broken sections on your page. But sometimes that means that it's a little over aggressive in that process. And so if you are running into that issue in articles, one of the easiest ways to bypass it is to jump into the snippet editor, into the code editor, where it's not going to do any of that cleaning and scrubbing. Put your script in there and then embed that snippet into whatever articles that you want that code to live in. So you bypass one of those sort of little headaches that happens with the article editor. It also makes it easier if it's the type of thing that you're going to embed repeatedly to add a particular type of functionality or customization. It then makes it a lot easier to find all of the places that that customization has been used since we get the references. I think one less obvious advantage to this is that if you're using a snippet like this to contain a bunch of code and you want to play around with it, Within the snippet library, you can copy a snippet and then play with it. So you can leave your original code intact out there functioning perfectly in the world, create a new snippet, play around with that until you get it working the way you want, and then update the original snippet to have the new thing. I have a tendency to forget to do this and then get a little overly destructive with my snippet edits. So it's a really good practice, even if I don't always follow it. One place that we use this is for our API endpoint documentation. We leverage redoc behind the scenes here, and that particular script is not recognized by our WYSIWYG editor. It will strip out the redoc tags when it saves. And so to bypass that, we've dumped our redoc script, both the file reference itself as well as the JavaScript that it has to call into a snippet. We've then placed that snippet within, in this case, a custom content category, and that helps us generate our beautiful looking API documentation out here without us having to worry that the editor's going to do anything weird in this case. So I've seen a variety of use cases where this happens. It's usually with scripts that have tags that do not start with script, or have particularly interesting additional variables in them that our WYSIWYG editor just does not quite recognize. So it will happen with redoc, it will happen with Tableau. Those are the big ones I've run into lately. And again, what we'll do here is to say, all right, I'll create a new snippet out here. Maybe I've got a Tableau embed that I want to work with. Here, I definitely will be in code view because what I've got is an actual chunk of code or a script that I want to work in. And just for comparison, let me show you what happens if I try to put this into an article all by itself. So if I'm out here in the normal editor and I put this in, and I toggle back, you'll see it actually gets wiped completely because the editor is it doesn't recognize Tableau as a valid HTML. It wants to strip it out so you don't have invalid HTML, and it will just disappear flat out as soon as I save or I toggle away from code view. No bueno. But if I put it out here in my snippet, and then I come back out here and embed it, that code will just stay because the snippet evaluation isn't going to strip anything out from it. By leveraging code editor, we've bypassed that sort of flaw in the editor, and it will stay. This actually, I don't have a Tableau account, so this isn't going to look like it's doing anything, but the code will actually be there and would be functioning if there was. It's in here in the underlying object, I promise. That was not what I meant to click on. There we go. Nicely embedded within my little paragraph. Actually, there would render if I actually had that tied up to anything that was meaningful and useful. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Did we get any questions that came through in chat that I should? Okay, excellent. Then I will stop the recording here. Thank you all for being here for this portion of it.